The topic for our IA is prototyping and prototyping techniques and tools. We are a group of three people, Dhairya Gala, Apeksha Hegde, and Shreya Khetan. So let's begin with the introduction. In an ever evolving world where innovation and user centered design are paramount, prototyping has emerged as a central element in the pursuit of groundbreaking solutions. Whether you are a seasonal designer, a budding entrepreneur, or simply someone passionate about creating and improving, the world of prototyping offers exciting journey to explore. Imagine having the ability to test and refine your ideas, products, or services before investing time and resources into full scale production. That's the power of prototyping. It empowers us to visualize, experiment, and iterate, allowing us to transform concepts into actual reality. Now, let's talk about what is prototyping. Prototyping is the process of creating a basic, often simplified model or representation of a concept, product, system, or design. Prototyping can take various forms, including physical models, sketches, wireframes, digital mock-ups, and even functional versions of a product or a system. Prototyping can then be used to collect feedback from users, stakeholders, or even experts for that matter, enabling iterative design and refinement. Okay, so now that we have spoken about prototyping, let's talk about the importance of prototyping in design thinking. So there are three main important reasons for prototyping. Early problem solving. Prototypes detect design issues early, preventing expensive mistakes and increasing the likelihood of success. Secondly, feedback from stakeholders. They facilitate input from users and stakeholders, resulting in design that meets their need effectively. Thirdly, collaborative creativity. Creating prototypes encourages teamwork among various parties, including engineers, marketeers, and stakeholders, leading to a better and much more innovative solution. Okay, so now we have spoken about prototypes, the importance of prototypes, and now let's talk about the types of prototypes that we have. So, in the types of prototypes, we are mainly going to talk about three types, that is low fidelity, medium fidelity, and high fidelity prototypes. So, now firstly, let's talk about the low fidelity prototypes. So, these prototypes are like the very basic versions. They are simple, they are cost effective representations made from very simple materials, just like paper or cardboard. They are very quick to create and the perfect for early design exploration. They help uncover major flaws, test basic functionalities, and gather a broad perspective feedback. For instance, if you're designing a mobile app, paper cutouts mimicking the screens and the interactions serve as low fidelity prototype for user feedback on usability and the flow. So now Okay, so now let's talk about the pros of low fidelity prototypes. So they are very quick and inexpensive. Low fidelity prototypes can be created rapidly using minimal resources like pen and paper. Secondly, they are extremely cost effective as well. And second point, focus on concept. Since they are simple and lack intricate details, low fidelity prototypes encourage stakeholders to focus on the overall concept that we are aiming at and the functionality rather than specific design elements. The ease of iteration, it is very easy to make changes in these low fidelity type designs. And thirdly, reduce attachments. So people are less emotionally attached to the low fidelity prototypes and making it easier to gather feedback about it. Since we have already discussed the pros, now we will discuss the cons. Limited detail. Low fidelity prototypes lack the visual interactive details of the final product, which make it difficult to assess the experience and accuracy. Limited realism, they may not be accurately represent the final product's look and feel, potentially leading to misinterpretations of the design. And thirdly, they are less suitable for usability testing. These are less suitable for usability testing with end users as they may not provide a realistic user experience. Now we will talk about medium fidelity prototypes and Apeksha will continue.
So let's talk about the second type of prototypes, that is medium fidelity prototypes. It offers greater detail and functionality resembling the final product more closely. They use advanced tools like digital wireframes or interactive mockups. These prototypes are ideal for testing features, gathering detailed user feedback, and assessing technical feasibility. For a mobile app, an interactive wireframe prototype lets users navigate, interact with features, and refine the design realistically. Now, let's talk about the pros of medium fidelity prototypes. First one is balanced approach. So medium fidelity prototypes strike a balance between speed and cost of low fidelity prototypes and the realism of high fidelity prototypes. It has a better user understanding since it offers a more detailed representation of the design than low fidelity prototypes. Therefore, it makes it suitable for user testing and feedback collection. Third one is improved communication. So it can effectively communicate design ideas to stakeholders, clients, and team members. Last one being moderate iteration. So changes and iterations are relatively easier to implement compared to high fidelity prototypes since it is more complex. Therefore, it is a flexible choice. Now moving on to the cons of medium fidelity prototypes. First one is resource requirements. Since it is more detailed than the low fidelity prototypes, it requires more time and resources compared to low fidelity prototypes. Second one is it may still lack realism. Depending on the level of fidelity, medium fidelity prototypes may not fully capture the user experience, potentially leading to misunderstandings. Now let's move on to the high fidelity prototypes. It closely mimics the final product in design and functionality made with advanced tools like coding or 3D printing. They are best for comprehensive user testing, detailed feedback, and evaluating the final user experience. In a mobile app example, it's a fully functional, polished version allowing users to interact with all features and assesses the final design before actual development. Different prototypes help designers make informed decisions in the design process. Now let's move on to the pros of high fidelity prototypes. First one is realistic representation. It closely resembles the final product in terms of design, interactions, functionality, therefore providing a highly realistic user experience. It is ideal for conducting usability testing with end users as they provide a near final user experience. It gives accurate feedback on design details, which can lead to better refinements. And it can be used for marketing and stakeholder presentations to showcase the final product's look and feel. Now, about the cons of high fidelity prototypes. So, first one being time and resource intensive. So, creating high fidelity prototypes can be time consuming and costly, making them less suitable for early stages of design exploration. Changes can be more challenging to implement in high fidelity prototypes, potentially causing delays in the design process. Potential for attachment. Stakeholders and team members may become emotionally attached to high fidelity prototypes, making it harder to accept major design changes. Now, here is an example of a mobile app in the low fidelity, medium fidelity, and high fidelity prototypes. Now moving on to the prototyping techniques and tools. First, we'll talk about prototyping techniques. So first one is paper prototyping. It's a low cost, quick way to create hand-drawn design concepts on paper for early feedback and testing user interactions. Then there is digital prototyping. So we can use software tools here. Designers create interactive, realistic representations of a design. This approach offers dynamic interfaces and realistic user testing without coding. Then the last one being 3D printing and rapid prototyping. So revolutionary techniques for creating physical prototypes from digital designs. So 3D printing builds layer by layer while rapid prototyping uses CAD software and CNC machines for quick physical prototypes. Now moving on to prototyping tools. So there is paper prototyping here, where it is a low tech technique involving sketching or drawing design concepts on paper or sticky notes. Then there is wireframing software like Xior RP and Sketch allow for digital low fidelity prototyping by creating basic layouts and structures. There are interactive prototyping tools like Figma, Adobe, etc. that create interactive and high fidelity prototypes. And lastly, there is 3D printing with advanced technology. So now let's move on to the stages of prototyping. Dhairya will be talking about it.
So the stages of prototyping are number one, defining the goal. The developer will create a broader vision for their product at this stage in the prototyping process. This stage could also function as a verbal description and could contain sketches. Second is highlighting core elements. This is for when their prototype is used to convince investors of its value, but it's not required for most other uses. The designer should choose one or two standout aspects of the product to emphasize in the prototype. Manufacture. The longest portion of the process is developing the prototype because the designer must weigh all the available possibilities and evaluate them. Consider using 3D printing or CNC machine, etc. And fourth is evaluation. After the initial prototype is released, the designer assesses it for possible improvements, which could involve minor adjustments or even starting over from scratch to streamline the entire process. The fifth stage is presentation, and it varies based on the prototype's goals and whether it is used for customer testing or patent submission or investor showcases. It helps gauge interest and guides manufacturing decisions, whether for a small run or mass production. Given here is a diagram of all the stages. Now we will talk about advantages of prototyping and design. So, firstly, testing and validation. Prototypes facilitate early testing and validation of the ideas. By creating and testing prototypes, designers can identify usability issues, evaluate user preferences, and validate assumptions before investing significant time and resources into development. Stakeholder alignment. Prototypes serve as a powerful tool for aligning stakeholders and facilitating collaboration. By visualizing ideas in a tangible form, prototypes help stakeholders grasp the design intent, providing more informed feedback, inspiring creativity. So, this prototype encourages designers to think more creatively and out of the box. It provides the freedom for them to experiment, take risks, and push the boundaries of innovation, ultimately leading to better solutions. Visualizing ideas. They provide a tangible representation of abstract concepts, making ideas more concrete and easier to understand. They enable designers to communicate their vision to stakeholders, clients, or team members. Now we will talk about challenges in prototyping. Firstly, there are so many intricacies involved that they do not sometimes accurately reflect the final product. There are iterative demands where there are frequent adjustments and iterations needed. These consume time as well as resources. User feedback and interpretation. Understanding and incorporating user feedback can be subjective and therefore challenging. Tech skills. Skilled personnel or specialized tools may be required, which may pose a challenge for some projects. And last is scalability. So it doesn't always translate directly to mass production, leading to rework and added complexity. So these given below are the best practices for prototyping. First is obviously starting early and not waiting until you get a fully developed solution. These can help you to refine your ideas and identify potential problems early on. Be fast and frugal. Prototypes should be quick and easy to create, and they should not have a lot of time or money spent on them intensively. Focusing on the user when creating and testing your prototypes, keep the user in mind. Like, for example, what are their needs and wants, and what will be the best user experience. Iterate and improve. Don't be afraid to make changes to your prototypes based on the user's feedback. The goal is basically to create a prototype that users find easy to use. Some tips we provide for prototyping is using the right tools for the job. There are a variety of such tools available, both free and paid. Choosing a perfect tool that is appropriate you are creating and or your skill level depending on it. Get feedback early and often. Once you have a prototype, test it with users and get their feedback, and this will help you identify potential problems and make improvements. Don't be afraid to fail. This is just a process of trial and error. So it's okay if your first prototype isn't perfect, you can just keep iterating and improving until you have a prototype that customers are happy with. So this is the conclusion. This is basically a rundown of the things. Prototyping is an indispensable element of the design process. It empowers designers to iterate, gather valuable feedback, and refine their ideas. Whether using low fidelity techniques like paper prototyping or advanced digital tools, prototyping always fosters innovation, collaboration, and a deep understanding of the final product's functionality. It even allows for a dynamic and flexible design process that adapts to the ever changing needs of both the users and the project itself. So, these are our references. Thank you.